That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Dog and Chicken Show. Tonight, we're going to have a lot of fun. As you can see, the sports attire that I got on, and you'll see Tony's got on. We're going to cover our top 25 college football teams heading into the preseason. We're super excited to bring this to you. Of course, being Nebraska fans, where do they fall into this? We'll get to that and much, much more. But then some thoughts on the competition out there and how this season should shake out, not only for us. We can kind of dive into our thoughts on that as we get later on into the podcast here. But really need to start off with who are we up against and what's the nation got as far as talent and what kind of schedule they up against. Who are we needing to look out for? Who's the top teams out there? That's what this is all about. So, Tony, any thoughts before we start going through our list? I guess we get, if you want to share how we kind of came to this, we both kind of sent each other our top 25, and me being a dummy. Well, yeah, I guess I'm a dummy. Yeah, that's fair enough. But I took each of our rankings, put them together. We had 6 teams that were not in each other's top 25.
Nope.
That we eliminated 6 teams from the pool that we had together, and kind of mathematically put together, if he ranked somebody as number 1 and I ranked him as number 3, we just kind of added it up and figured out, hey, how's the math work out? And came up with the ultimate top 25 list. So, Tony, thoughts before we get started and start revealing kind of where we're going to start at 25, work our way down. So thoughts before we get into this.
Yeah, let's just get this out of the way right now. Clearly his shirt and hat, my shirt. We're homers, Nebraska fans. Let's just get that out of the way and we can move past it, everybody. Don't click away yet. That's not all we're going to talk about. But yes, we lean heavily that way. So we've gotten that out of the way. As he alluded to, we both kind of had our preliminary lists. We shared them with each other. We debated the numbers. We debated the ranking. We debated the teams. And eventually we kind of came to an agreement on most of the teams. And then, like you said, he put it in a system and we got our ranking. But before we dive into all that, I think there's just a couple little things that we needed to touch on before we delved into this episode. Just a second.
Oh, yes, just a second. I had to take a drink too.
Excuse me. Needed that.
And Tony just slammed that one.
Yeah.
In case the camera turned back to me, because I happened to just talk, Tony just slammed his. I got whiskey here. I'm not going to. So if you're not aware, we had a little bit of feedback on my. I have Big Buckin' Entertainment is a Facebook group that I started up originally when I did karaoke all the time, but I'm kind of leaning into this podcast realm and trying to advertise kind of what we're doing. And we got some feedback from a gentleman on there.
Yes.
Saying, hey.
Finally, some feedback.
Yeah, we've been asking you guys, hey, tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Hey, would you like to be on the show? Stuff like that. No, guess what feedback we get?
Don't drink. I can't take you seriously if you drink.
Okay, so I'm going to take it a next step. He commented that on a podcast that we were talking about ghosts.
Oh, okay. I can understand that, and I did want to preface that. Like, when it comes to ghost hunting, like, I don't let people drink. I don't even let people smoke cigarettes. You want to smoke, bring your vape pen, because all your senses and your wits have to be about you on a paranormal investigation. But when it's me and him shooting the shit on a podcast, come on, that's our downtime. This is a hobby. Just come on. And really, one of the most popular podcasts out there right now, Joe Rogan, he's actively taking massive bong rips with like Elon Musk. Come on, you're gonna get us shit for having a drink.
Oh okay. Man, I wish I could get that big. I wouldn't have to worry about nothing. Anyway, No good, man. Anyway, like, yeah. So, cheers to you, fella. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. How about you tell us what you want to hear about and what you want us to? Well, this is two guys BS, and you mentioned Joe Rogan. There's so many other ones. I listen to podcasts like crazy. I drive half of my week, and
Oh yeah, that Jake the Snake one, man. I'm so glad I got to listen to that. Oh
oh, that
wow,
was fantastic, wasn't it? But
yeah,
anyway, like I don't do this for popularity or anything. We do this for fun because I live 4.5 hours from Tony, and we don't get to hang out very often. So it's nice to just sit and drink and talk like we
yep.
used to. And hey, if you guys want to listen to it, cool. If not, piss off. I don't
We're a
care.
lot less funny to each other and other people when we're not at least a little buzzed. Come on, you think we're funny naturally? I mean, we are, but this enhances it. Come on.
Right, right. So it is a little showmanship going on in the middle of it, but we got to have some fun for ourselves. It's not all
Yeah,
about you guys; it's about us too.
yeah. Why you gotta be so selfish, people? Come on, really.
All right. So
Let's do this.
now that we're
Top
past that,
25.
we're gonna kick into the top 25. So number 25,
Well,
we
should we
came.
talk about some that we couldn't agree on, like some of the darlings of the top 25 list that didn't quite make the cut? Like, I'll just run through a couple. Like, I know Iowa State's a big one. Virginia, I've seen mentioned a lot. I don't think Missouri's on ours. It's not. Uh, what was another one we really kind of debated
So
on?
So Army was one that
Yeah, yep,
a lot of people are really underestimating Army, and I originally in my list, and I know Tony didn't have him in his, but I think I had Army at like 24, 25. Like
yeah.
I had him sneaking in just because of what they could do last year, and they have a really favorable schedule this year. This could be the third straight season they have double digit victories. Honestly, and they got some tough ones. Well, I'm trying to read through here. It looks like they're up against Michigan in September.
Yeah, see,
Up,
that's
upset alert, maybe.
man. That's the thing. Like you said, Army has been consistent for Army, and a chance like that, you either flounder bad or do they rise to the occasion? That would be, man, that would be something. That would really be
Michigan's
something.
Michigan's prone to throwing some of those upsets and hosing themselves early in the season. So
Yeah,
I
nobody's forgotten about Appalachian State in 2007.
Yep. So don't look past that game, folks. That could be a real barn burner right off of the start. September 7th is what I'm reading here. Hopefully that's right. But yeah, I think Army yeah, they're never going to win a national championship by any means. But
No, not with the current system.
oh, God, no. So that was one that I had in there. You had Miami.
And yeah, Miami's kind of my dark horse pick to move up the rankings fast because it is one of those sexy names that the rankings love. People see Miami, and if they see Miami win a game, they just kind of automatically start thinking more of them. So I think Miami's going to be one of those teams we see move up the ladder quick if they start winning games a lot. It won't even have to be a lot.
Yeah, new coaches always scare me. That's why I kind of kept
It's
them out
Mark
of there.
Richt, though. This is second year, I think, for Mark Richt.
Is it Mark Rick?
Yeah.
I thought it was Diaz.
No, no, no. Miami's got Rick now, or unless I completely missed something.
I don't know.
Let me
Either
look.
way, new
I'm pretty sure
coach.
this is his second one.
Either way. It's still scary having a new coach in there, and then Miami.
Yeah.
Do we want to go into the criminal conversation?
Oh man, two ESPN 30 documentaries. I think that's probably good. I think they've kind of covered it. What the funny thing about Mark Richt is, I'm looking at his Wikipedia. He's a Nebraskan. He's from Omaha, and he was quarterback at Miami. So yeah, that's kind of it's weird how things kind of come full circle. It looks like was it 2016? Is that right? He's been there that long. Man, that doesn't seem right.
I don't think he's there anymore.
Is it 2018?
I'm
Okay.
reading
I'm looking
here.
here.
Okay, so
I've been so out of the loop with other teams this year. It's like I'm
yeah,
usually like I'm right there on it. So that's like most years, my top 25 I would have had done in like April, and I would have argued
So
all.
so on what I'm reading here, it's Manny Diaz.
Okay,
He finished last year 7-6, so this would be his
okay,
second year, apparently heading into the ACC.
okay. Yeah, head. Yeah, no, yep. This first season, Manny Diaz. That's right. Okay, yeah, because Mark Rick done 2018. Yep, there it is.
Okay.
So I don't think it matters. It's still a Florida team. It's still Miami. It's just a hotbed for
They're
talent.
just gonna have a ton of talent. They always
It's
do.
speed. Yeah, it's all speed. You just at one point we're gonna get that Florida State Miami game in the championship, the ACC. It's got to happen someday. Like that's how they designed it. It's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen like every year, and it's never happened. It's got to happen.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Florida State, that was another one we kind of kicked out of the top 25. So
That's hard too.
let's touch on that because man, we realized how terrible they really were last year. They were way overhyped.
That's the thing, though. Like I look at us in the same light because Florida State and Nebraska had like so many similar problems. Like when the wheels fell off, it lit on fire. So yeah,
Sure.
I can relate. But it's again, it's the same boat. It's Florida State. The speed's there. The conference schedule's there. It's ripe for the picking. I mean, you're obviously Clemson is your top dog in the ACC, but Florida State, it's like they never fall off too far, and they seem to just kind of rebound. If they have a down year, they bounce back.
Sure. Yeah, before we get to Iowa State, the other one was UCLA. Chip Kelly, first year,
Yes.
3-9.
Yep. That. Wow. UCLA. I think my thing with UCLA is the fact that USC has been not USC for so long now that
Oh,
they've
they
just been.
haven't. They haven't. You're
No.
right. Like
No.
it's not like back then. It was USC. It was Texas. It was Oklahoma. It was Alabama. Like
Yep.
that was your household.
Yeah.
Like if you were gonna have well, I don't know if playoffs would have worked that way, but anyway, like those were the four you were like, man, they're gonna be there. And then you had Georgia, Auburn, kind of in that conversation, along with Ohio
But that's
State
just
and
it. Like
Michigan. But
UCLA was down for so long. Like UCLA was so far down compared to where USC was. USC has opened the door for how many years now, and UCLA can't walk through it. It's gonna happen. And come on, you just said Chip Kelly. Come on, it's gonna come around.
it will. It will. Chip Kelly's a pretty yeah. He's good.
He's back in the West Coast. He's back in college.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's where he belongs.
disappointing debut. So did Nebraska. So I can't. You know, sometimes you gotta fall to get up. So I feel like UCLA is going to be that team out west. Florida State's kind of that team out east, and obviously Nebraska's the team in the Midwest. If you're going to have those teams that hit rock bottom and are going to step back up in a big way, will all three do it? Probably not. But out of those three, I could see 2 out of 3 for sure.
Yeah, and then that takes us to Iowa State and our thoughts on there, which a lot of folks have them in the top 25, and this is probably out of those five, in my opinion, they're probably the most deserving of hitting it, and maybe should have made our list. So a little love to Iowa State. Not only in the past few years they've thrown up some big upsets and had some really exciting games, but honestly, who's their coach now? Matt Campbell, I believe.
It's
He's
just,
turning this around and making it consistent. It's not a flash in the pan once a
no.
year like it was. He's showing that they can play football with about anybody, and the record not always what you wanted to be,
No,
but they can
no.
stand with some really top tier teams.
The fact that Iowa State's in this conversation, I would liken it to Jeff Brom at Purdue. Not in coaching stylistic, but location and expectation. Like if you can go to a place like Iowa State or Purdue and have this kind of expectation and this kind of momentum and be in a top 25 preseason poll, that says something to me. Obviously, Iowa State's got quite a big, they've got a mountain to climb. The Big 12's not like stacked, but there's enough teams there that it's going to be really tough going. Especially you got Les Miles at Kansas. Nobody knows what to expect there. Texas is just right on the cusp of turning things around and being Texas again. Oklahoma's a juggernaut. West Virginia scores 1,000,000 points a game. Same with Oklahoma State. There's a lot of games there where it's tough going, even if you have a solid day, because the points just stack up so high.
Yeah, for sure. And they got a pretty solid returning defense, if I understand correctly.
And you want to win in the Big 12, that's what you need.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm trying to remember. I read earlier it was on the front offensive line they're bringing back all five. The only real concern they're gonna really have is at cornerback position, and honestly, in the Big 12,
That hurts.
In the Big 12, does it?
Yes. You got
To
big
who?
heavy passing teams. Come on.
To who? I mean, when you're playing those big teams, you got way more things to worry about than passing.
Defending the pass, I think you got a lot to worry about if you don't have a strong cornerback. At least one.
Oklahoma's just going to barrel over you and run the well. They'll throw it every now and then, but man, they can just steamroll over the top of you if you don't have that line. Like,
Well, if Iowa State can stop the big power run games of the better teams at running the ball, and they still allow a bunch of yards through the air, you really can't fault them for the league that they're in.
no, I think their game right now with even with the defense being weak at that cornerback position, and we'll see whatever you get some new talent probably coming in there to backfill those. Maybe they'll be okay, but even with that, we've seen being weak at that cornerback spot. You can make adjustments to that if you got the talented enough linebackers, and
Well,
you'll see where
do you
they'll
have the
switch some.
depth?
Well, yeah, if you got the depth on even receivers, you can switch your receivers. We've done that in the past in Nebraska and throw them on defense, and you'd be amazed on how well they play on defense versus being a receiver. So I don't know. I think Iowa State deserves a little nod of the cap and at least considered in the conversation before we move on. But any final thoughts before we get started on the
No,
2025?
Iowa State was the one team I really would have fought for other than Miami. So I think there's more consistency with Iowa State, and I think they're more of a well-known commodity. Like I still can't believe I completely forgot about Manny Diaz, but I still like Miami as a dark horse contender for the ACC.
Oh, it happens, dude. I'm gonna forget half of these people before the end of the night. That's what drinking during a podcast does, and
I know.
apparently
If we
nobody
only would,
takes it serious.
yeah, if only we would take this more seriously. We're such assholes.
All right, so we'll kick this off. Number 25 on our official list, we got Wisconsin.
Boo!
Yeah, the
Boo!
frickin' Badgers.
Yeah. So yeah, Wisconsin, take it away.
So they would probably be higher. Most people have them in the top 20 or even top 15.
That's where
I
they
think,
always seem to sit.
yeah, I just don't see it. This is 2 years in a row of a bad turnout and bad performance where they did not win 10 games, and they're moving
No.
in the wrong direction, and they got tough schedules every year. Don't The Big Ten is so stacked and it's so hard.
The West is going to be not stacked
Oh,
at the top, but it's going to be a bigger meat grinder this year than I think it's ever been.
yes. You are absolutely right, and Wisconsin will suffer because of that. Now, they do have talent. They have potential to win the West. They do. Most predictions show Nebraska versus Wisconsin to take the West. Is kind of it's between those two is really what everybody's looking at. They do have the talent for it. They do have a lot of weapons at the helm. They have they got a new quarterback coming in. Is that right, T? I'm not
Yeah,
familiar with their QB.
I'm not either, and I never liked Hornibrook. The first time I saw Hornibrook play, I I'm like, man, he's going to lose them a lot of games. And then he just somehow found dumb luck more times than not and somehow carried them to win and would not look like the same quarterback twice in 2 weeks. And I'm like, I can't get it. And I thought maybe the next year, no, it's going to come around. No, starting out of the game, like, now I think he sucks again. And every year, by the end of the season, he's playing solid. So that's a big spot to replace, obviously, a quarterback. So I know nothing about, is it Cohen? Yes, Jack Cohen. He threw for, 515 yards, 5 touchdowns last year, obviously behind Hornibrook. So he's got a little bit of experience in the game, and they need solid quarterback play to succeed. But they do have, of course, they still have, it's Wisconsin. Solid run game on the ground, 2,000-yard season, not out of the possibility. Jonathan Taylor. And Chris has done a lot better at Wisconsin as their coach than I ever thought he would. So, yes, they are worthy of that top 20 conversation, but I don't know. Something about them that I saw last year, they did, like you said, they were moving in the wrong direction. And I just think for some reason this year is the year that they take a big step back.
Yeah, but we got to be careful with it. So, like last year, their defense returned what, 3 starters, but yet they held teams to 22.5 points a game, which 22.5. But honestly, that's not bad when only 3 starters return. So
No.
they're going to be more experienced. That defense is going to be way more dialed in this year, and they're going to be a little bit more of a force to be reckoned with. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they lost this year, but Wisconsin's always been a team that is to be reckoned with, honestly, and
Yeah.
they will pose troubles for about anybody. So that alone,
They're in
um,
every game they play, and it doesn't seem to matter who the opponent is.
absolutely,
The
that's
only time that they're not in every game, and I've seen this twice now, is when they play. Uh, who was I going to say? I just had it on the tip of my tongue, but they play somebody really bad. It's kind of like when Ohio State plays Purdue. You expect a big plunky to get laid. It sure as hell ain't Nebraska. Who is it? It just seems to be their Achilles heel. It's not Iowa either. Or Minnesota, like their traditional rivalry, but they have a team that they just seem to just shit the bed against. And I can't think of who it is now. I had it on the tip of my tongue. I'll think of it.
yeah, you'll think of it. So anyway, very deserving, I feel, of number 25. So let's move on. Number 24, TCU Horned Frogs.
Yeah, they are actually really high on our list compared to a lot of others. I'm looking at Athlon has them at 37. So this is kind of an interesting pick for us. For me, it's Gary Patterson. He's been there forever. He transitioned them into the Big 12, and they've been a perfect fit. So where does that put TCU in 2019? Again, like you said with Iowa State, it's their defense that kind of sets them apart from everybody else. Uh, they only returned 5 on their defense, though, this year. So their offense needs to step up in a big way, or, yeah, we're way off base here with this number.
No, you're absolutely right. If that offense does not step up at TCU, they'll be doomed and fall out of this very, very quickly.
Yeah.
The strength of schedule's not terrible. It's
No.
not great. They're kind of middle of the pack when you kind of look through.
Well, it's the Big 12, so you know going in that everybody will play everybody once. So you at least you know that everybody's kind of on a level playing field except for where they're playing the games.
Exactly. So they have a really good chance of keeping things going. TCU, I look for good things out of them. They got a good quarterback coming into this year, so I think they can maintain.
Yeah.
Number 23, we got Northwestern.
Oh man, this is a tough pick because I can't stand Pat Fitzgerald. Like out of most of the coaches in the FBS, like Pat Fitzgerald just drives me absolutely nuts. Something about the guy just pisses me off. I don't know if it's his face or his sideline antics. I don't know because I was at 2011. I went to the first year we were in the Big Ten. I went to the Nebraska Northwestern game. They came here. I'm like, surely we're going to get that big win we need. and they frickin' upset us, like terrible. And he's on the sideline just jumping around like a just an asshole. Like, sorry, but he was. He looked like just a douche. And ever since then, I just can't stand him. And then, like, I think it was last year, he said something just overly stupid about, I don't like all these multiple formations on offense, and it's really stupid, and I don't like that, and it just makes it really hard. Well, no kidding. That's kind of the idea, man. I don't know. I can't stand him. But Northwestern as a team, they play some of the most consistent football you can possibly watch. They are not a big, strong, fast team compared to most, but they don't make mistakes. And they are amazing at capitalizing on other people's mistakes. That's how they win games. That's how they somehow win divisions. Never saw that coming. Will they do it in 2019?
Yeah, I don't think they'll. Yeah, I think you're right. They're not going to win the division. It's too stacked. And but you are
They
right.
take advantage of a weak division. That's not the case this year.
Right, and they win like you said with fundamentals. That's if you are not extremely talented team, like we've seen this in the past, whether it be Nebraska or Alabama or Michigan or Florida, you name a team, you name any of the top tier teams over the last 25 years, you can be as talented as you want and you can go in and make so many mistakes that fundamentals will win the game. And Northwestern is, like Tony alluded to, has had the advantage of teams in this division being terrible with fundamentals. I mean, Nebraska for a while couldn't figure out how to tackle. Blocking and tackling fundamentals. Like if you can't do those, you're kind of hosed. And
Yeah.
Northwestern could take us out because of that. We would have superior talent. We've always had, maybe not super superior talent, but we've had good talent. We always have.
Well, in the years previous, like we might have better talent on paper, but they've had better developed players, and
Right.
they've had more
That no
consistent.
fundamentals.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at a couple quick notes on Northwestern, Athlon has them at 35, so this is another one we have them a lot higher. But they only averaged 24.2 points a game last year. So the fact that they were able
Wow.
to win a division like that, that says something about the fundamentals that they're so good at. And this year at quarterback, they have a transfer from Clemson in Hunter Johnson. So that's going to help with the point
Yeah,
totals.
that's
And
that's what they need though.
yeah,
They need a spark on offense if they want to survive and do anything in that division because there are some high scoring teams in that division. If they're gonna stand out and they're gonna be able to beat some of these guys, they need to rack up some points. There are some weak defenses there, but for sure, no good. Um, Next one we got is USC. This is another one where a lot of folks have USC pretty much counted out, to be honest. And I've seen several rankings where they're in 35 anywhere to like 50 when you look at the total rankings. We put them in the top 25,
yeah.
mainly because Tony. I had him. I think I had him on my list at like 24 or 25. I can't remember where Tony had him at, but what are your
I probably
thoughts,
had them
sir?
higher. We touched on this before. USC's been not USC for a long time. It's the biggest problem is they went 5-7 last year, and they have a just a bad schedule. So unless this team comes together instantly, yeah, this is going to be a bad pick on our part. But I like them to do very well this year. I don't know. I feel like this is a 9-win team for sure. I don't know why. I liked what I saw of them at times last year when I did see them. So they do have a new offensive coordinator. So they've got a lot of unknowns, but it's still USC, and that's another one of those teams that even if they fall, it's not going to take a big step to get right back in that conversation. And we still don't know what we're going to get out of UCLA, Utah. Utah's the heavy favorite in the South in the Pac-12. So it's kind of like the door's wide open.
Yeah, how the hell did that happen? Utah? The
Yeah,
Utes? The
they're
Utes?
consistent. They're consistent. The rest of the teams not consistent. What Arizona? Arizona State? That's the epitome of inconsistency. I mean, Arizona State with the shock hire last year. Still can't believe that was a thing. But yeah, like I said, it's a wide open race. So I don't know. I like USC. I like UCLA. I do like Utah. Uh, the Pac-12 is not really in the conversation at all in terms of a playoff. So I think if a team kind of grabs the reins and early, they can run with it. USC could be that team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Good assessment there. And honestly, they have a rough schedule this year. But the fact that, as you'll see later on, we have the Utes above them, and that's not without reason. But they do have a lot of talent, and they can pull it together. So I'm confident USC is going to pull off a way better season than that 5-7 that Tony had mentioned.
Yeah.
I think they're going to pull together. Got a new offensive coordinator, I believe, and a lot of talent. USC's always got a ton of talent. You just
Oh yeah.
they'll get that spark. They'll be fine this year.
Yeah.
They'll come back around, and they're going to be a threat probably here in the next 3-4 years.
Yeah. If
At
it doesn't come
top
together
10.
this year, it's probably next year you're going to see. I wouldn't be shocked to see like UCLA and USC like right in the thick of things next year.
Okay. Number 21. I know Tony hates this. Tony hates this, and I honestly, I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm trying to be a little biased and trying to stay out of the whole big red thought process. But honestly, you have to consider Iowa.
Boo! Boo, Iowa! Boo!
Boo. Iowa Hawkeyes coming in at 21 on our list. Most people do have them in their top 25. It is an interesting look at what they can do. They got a senior quarterback coming in here, been impressive. No matter what team you
Yeah.
would play on, Tony, you would have been a fan if
I
he was
can't.
playing
Yeah.
for Nebraska. The dude's putting up some fantastic numbers and leading this team to possible championships later on down. He NFL quality? I don't know, but for college football, he's a good quarterback. He knows what he's doing. He's got good field control. He understands what's going on. He understands the play calls and he's able to take care. He has a presence on the field that you don't see a lot of when it comes to the Big Ten these days. We got so many young quarterbacks and I don't know, criminal quarterbacks, I guess, that keep getting kicked out. But I guess that's a side note. But
You're not wrong. The thing about Iowa is Iowa has their best seasons when they have cupcake schedules, and this year they play at Iowa State, which is usually a can't miss game. They have road trips to Michigan, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, and they drop
oh, that's rough.
and a road. Where is it? And Penn State. They
What?
visit. Yep, Penn State goes to Iowa this year. So they have a murderer's row that we've been drawing for more years than not. So finally, they draw the short stick and get a really nasty schedule. So can senior quarterback Nate Stanley lead the way? You know what? I have him making a bowl. I don't have him going much further than that if they don't win like right out of the gate that Iowa State game. If they can drop the hammer on that game, they might put it together. But like that game kind of steers their season. That just I don't know why, but that week 2 matchup with Iowa State always just seems to be how their season ends up going. They play their best football down the road into November. By November, they are a solid team every year. They come out weak, they finish strong. That's going to be the case again, and it's going to be a dogfight when we play them, regardless of who's where. they're a good team. They did lose Noah Fant, who didn't come to Nebraska. I digress. So they do have some things to replace, but yeah, they're right in the thick of it in the Big Ten West again. It's a meat grinder.
Yeah, I think that's the big piece of it. That's the good and bad with Iowa, is the meat grinder of the murderers row, as you called it, coming in and out of there, and the teams they have to face. They're stacked at linebacker and are lining up to try to figure out who their starter is. Pick one. They're all good. You're
Yeah.
fine. You got a fantastic quarterback. Keep him healthy. There's just on offense alone, like wow, you got the best. They and Tony, you're gonna hate me for saying this. They have the best offensive line in the Big Ten.
Yeah, them, Wisconsin, just they do. Ohio State, yeah, they're all up there. It's and yeah, Iowa's always in the thick of it. It is impressive. You can't take that away from them.
Yep. They took Nebraska's old model, I take it, of them corn-fed boys. But anyway, Iowa could be a force to be reckoned with down the road. But like you said, the strength of schedule can either make it or break them, and it could be a telling season. You never know. They could be in the top five, come October, November, if they can survive a lot of what they have up against them.
They deserve it after that.
Right, and they definitely would, but tough road to get there. Next one. So for number 20, Texas A&M. I think we kind of bounce back and forth on this one.
Yeah, A&M is one of those teams that when they're good, man, they're good. And when they just can't seem to put it together, it's almost embarrassing to watch. Like, which A&M team is this going to be this year? Is this going to be the team that, can barely finish halfway through the SEC West, or is this going to be the A&M team that upsets Alabama? It's a 50-50 shot. And a lot of people have them in the top 10. I don't know. I don't think that's quite where they need to be. I think Jimbo Fisher is a good coach. I don't know that I would have paid him as much money as they did to come to Texas A&M. Like, I don't think Florida State wanted to keep him much longer. So the fact that they lured him away for as much money as they paid, that's good for you, Jimbo, for one. But yeah, you're coming off a 9-4 schedule last year, and you're going to have to go. It's a murderer's row in the SEC West: Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Mississippi State most of the time. So yeah, it's going to be a tough go. I think 10 is pretty high. I think we've got them about right because they're going to win games. They're not going to win the division though.
Yeah, I think we got them about right as well, is because this is a risk pick. Excuse me. As you said, like this could be this is another one of those make or break. Like they're either going to take it all the way and be a huge contender down the road, or they're going to fizzle out and have some disappointing losses right off, and they're never going to get the traction they need. They have the talent, both sides of the ball. They have all the weapons they need, both sides of the ball, damn near every position on this team. They are loaded. They are stacked. It comes down to the coaching, as you mentioned. Where's this coach's head at? Where's this team's head at? Are they ready to take A&M to the next level? Are we going to see the 12th man can only take you so far?
Yeah.
Because the real 12th man, sorry, people in the audience, the real 12th man is the coach. When you're in the crowd, you're the 13th. If that coach isn't there to play and have his heart and soul into this, if he's taking a sugar-coated deal with a ton of money coming rolling in and he don't give a damn. Hey, Nebraska's seen that with how many freaking coaches in a row right now.
Yep.
They didn't give two shits. Bo Pelini kind of gave a shit, but he flat out got just pissed because I don't know. We got mad that we lost to Ohio State. What?
Well, yeah. You know what? And with A&M, it's not just the SEC West. They have Clemson and Georgia across from the SEC East and the
Oh,
ACC.
that's brutal.
Yeah, so they don't have an easy go of it. I think they're going to be one of those teams. If it's going to come together this year for them, you're going to see it in quality losses. It's not going to be in quality wins. So I think we've got them about right if they still need to be in the top 25.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's fair with the potential they have and the potential to lose that they have. So,
Oh,
all
there's lots of potential for that.
yeah, yeah, that's for sure. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break and apologize for this dumbass little ad and commercial for some of you if you're listening on audio. And now we're getting down to number 19, none other than the Big Red.
Yes, here we
Tony,
are. It's
kick,
time.
kick us off, man. What are your thoughts
Oh.
on the Big Red this year?
All right, so let's just get the elephant out of the room right away. 4-8, disappointing debut season for Scott Frost. Not completely unexpected. Man, the cupboard was just left really bare in terms of developed talent. There's talent there, and he has developed it now. It was developed talent, and nobody knew what was going on. It took half the season last year to get things going, and by the end of the year, we were a 4-8 team that nobody wanted to play. Things are going to be different this year. The strength and conditioning, for one, alone is going to be where we see leaps and bounds of differences. Adrian Martinez, he's on Heisman watch lists. It's his second season. He's going to be something very, very special. A lot of people who love the quarterback position are going to be watching us just for him. Man, we lose Stanley Morgan. That hurts. We lose a Zigbo. That hurts. But, we've got like Washington, and we've got Spielman to replace him. So it's not like we're at a loss. We've got talent. We never had the talent developed. This is a team that I think is going to be on a lot of people's radars. Man, I see so many potential wins. I don't see a lot of potential losses, but we are homers at the same time. So we get a lot of tough games on our schedule at home. That's going to help a lot. Last year, we had a canceled game, and I think that directly led to us losing our opener against Colorado. Had we played that Akron game, I think we start 2-0, and the season goes way different. But it is what it is, and we really let everybody down up until about the halfway point last year when it really started coming together. And we started playing Ohio State to the wire on the road. I think from a team, as those teams that we talked about at the beginning of the show, that hit rock bottom, that have the biggest potential to hit their peak, Nebraska is it. That's just my nutshell, without diving into the details, take initially.
So I'm gonna. So I think Tony, you had him originally ranked 19th. I put him at 24.
Oh, my original ranking was way more generous.
But I had him at like 24, 25. I can't remember off the top of my head, and that's because of several things. So we seen what Scott Frost could do with UCF and turn them into an undefeated team. Now, granted, it's UCF
In year two.
In year two, and granted, it's UCF, and that schedule is what it is. And what he was up against that year, still impressive what he did. I'm not going to take anything away from that, but we have some factors this year we need to think of. No matter how good we looked coming out of the end of last season, there are several things we need to keep in mind. So we had the worst defense last season, the worst in the Big Ten.
It was bad. It was like
31 points allowed per game.
And a lot of that came from the first half of the schedule, to be fair. Because by the time we played Ohio State, that was a tight game. It's not like they hung 70 points on us like they have not that far off recent-wise. I mean, yeah. by midway, it started clicking. So, can we maintain that momentum that we had towards the end of the year through spring ball, into fall camp, and into the season? Do these guys trust these coaches yet? Are they all on board with it yet? That's my biggest question mark.
Yeah, and as much as we want to hype up Martinez is a spectacular talent. No matter what team he would be on, he would be a Heisman candidate. With you seen what he did last year with some of the frustrations and issues we had, and the new coach coming in, and several freshmen playing, and a defense that was that terrible. He kept us in games. He kept us in games with not only his feet but his play. Well, not necessarily his play calling. I'll give some of that to Mr. Frost for sure. His he I'll give Frost credit. He can call plays that are unique to the kid's talents, and can really spark up some crazy fun, exciting plays that go on, and hopefully lead to some points on the board. I The things that scare me the most: we lost 1,000-yard rusher, we lost 1,000-yard receiver.
You know
We
what, though? On Morgan, yes, huge loss. Like, there's no way to get around that. That's just a big, dependable playmaking body that you can't just replace like that. Divina Zigbo, on the other hand, last year was his breakout party in his senior year. I've been a fan of him since he came on board, but more because he looked like that big bruiser, short yardage back. A lot of people had him written off and were like, "Oh my god, if he's going to be our main guy, we're toast in the running game." No, he stepped up in a big way compared to what he was as a junior. So, you know what? What you've got to replace on the ground game, we've got, like I said, Washington, and then of course, let's see, JUCO recruit Dedrick Mills from, was it Oklahoma State? Is that right? I think. I can't remember. But we're not short at depth. Like, the depth is there. We've got guys who can step in if need be. And it's not like we're going to be like a 2,000-yard rushing team. We're going to chunk out a lot of yards through the air, even without Morgan. So I think regardless of who gets the majority snaps at running back this year, we're going to be very consistent. We're going to be very good to good enough. I'm not real worried about the run game, I guess.
So yeah, I think you're right on that piece. We're not going to be impressive on the ground this year. Martinez will have some dynamic plays. We'll have some crazy runs here and there, but don't look for us to be a huge run team this year. We're going to throw it in there where we can. You're right. We're going to be throwing, but you know what that means? That means more interceptions. That means more penalties and more issues that are going to happen throughout there when we lost such a huge receiving core and a lot of talent on that. Now, we did bring in I'm reading through Sports Illustrated right now, and they called out a couple of good ones, and honestly, I've heard of both of them. So I can't pronounce some of these names. Sorry, I'm butchering here. But
And Dedrick Mills was from Garden City Community College. He was it originally Georgia Tech? That's what I was thinking of. But
okay, so
yeah.
anyway, we brought in a Cal grad transfer, Kanawa Noah.
I love it when you pronounce names.
Yeah, I'm
It's
terrible.
my favorite.
Anyway, so 96 catches over 4 seasons as a wideout for the Bears in Cal. Definitely going to be a nice when we have this inexperienced receiving core. They
Wandale Robinson, true freshman.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
other one. He
Yeah,
came
it's
from what, Kentucky?
yeah, true freshman Wandale Robinson. If you don't know that name, just go ahead write that down. That's WAN apostrophe Dale Robinson.
You're gonna hear his name quite a bit in the early parts of the season because we're gonna play with him a lot. He can not only play some running back positions and be a nice threat in the backfield. he can also play wide receiver.
Yeah,
He's
I
got the
can't
skills.
believe we got him out of the SEC. Like the people that talk about the SEC being bigger, faster, stronger, whatever, more talented. This is one of those guys, and we plucked him right out of the heart. Like not just from Kentucky, the home state, but like Alabama, Georgia, even like your Clemson's. Like those guys, they all wanted this kid, and we got. This is going to be a kid that's going to make a breakout like that. So I could not be more excited to see him step up.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I'll wrap up since we're Husker fans. Sorry we spend so much extra time on this part of it, but
Okay, let's just get it out of the way then. Who's going to win the West this year? Do you have Nebraska as your winner of the West?
well, I have to.
Yeah, I do too, and because like we've got in our top 25, Iowa and Wisconsin, Northwestern are all lower. Obviously, we're being homers here, but I think with our cross division from the East, we've got Maryland and Indiana. So finally, we get an easier slate, and Ohio State comes here. We played them tough at the Horseshoe last year. I think they're probably going to be a little more nervous coming here this year. Like they've obviously got more to lose. They're without Urban Meyer. That's a big time matchup. If we can come into that game undefeated, and they are too, and like game day shows up, and we come out with a win there, people are
That's
going to get it.
huge. That's
That's
huge.
as huge. So if that game goes that way and we come out 5-0, man, things are going to start looking up. I think Nebraska's maybe not the heavy favorite, but they're the favorite in the back of the minds of a lot of people, which is saying something for a 4-8 team last year.
Yeah. So I would probably sum up my thoughts with Nebraska for this coming season. Way too much going on the hype train. Slow it down, folks.
Oh
They're
yeah,
not
yeah,
going to
for
be.
sure.
They're not going to be national champions
No,
this next year.
no.
Calm it down. We have a lot of bugs to work out. We have a favorable schedule compared to what we typically have. So our toughest opponents, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin, they're all coming to Lincoln. We got a good chance to have a really good record and have a 10-win season. Like we
Yes.
have a great chance at a 10-win season. But honestly, don't get your hopes up. This is year 2. We have a lot of talent to develop, and not only develop, but we still got bugs to work out. So
Absolutely.
at worst, 7-win season.
Yeah, I'd say the ceiling is probably 10 wins because it's more about injuries. I don't think it's about play. I think it's somebody's going to get hurt. We're going to lose a game we shouldn't. And yeah, I think the floor is 7 wins. We're going bowling again for the first time in so long, it feels like. So yeah,
I know, right?
I'm really
Right.
excited. Couldn't be more excited.
Yep. So, all right, that'll sum up our thoughts on Nebraska, and we're gonna move on to our number 18, Stanford. What do you got on Stanford? Like
Oh man,
this one might shock a few people, honestly.
Stanford. No, I don't think it should because Stanford's kind of become kind of a household name in the Pac-12 North, and they're just kind of recognized as having incredibly strong line play and running on the ground, downhill. They're a tough out for everybody who plays them, and they're like, oh man, those smart kids, they can really play some football. Man, they're tough, and they are every year. And it's not like they're ever out of the rankings very far. Like even when they have a bad record, people still look and go, I really wouldn't want to play Stanford right now. And their defense is always so good. David Shaw's a hell of a good coach. So I expect them to be pretty good again. I think it's probably going to be their defense that leads them, though.
I'm worried about that defense, though. I can't remember how many they lost, but they lost a nice chunk of that defense. You're right. That's typically what they lean on. They lean on that running game. They lean on that defensive front. And honestly, their biggest name coming back this year is the cornerback Paulson. Oh God, here I go again. Adebo, Paulson Adebo. He is one of the top tier defenders in the country, but he lost a lot of partners on that side of the ball. So Stanford, to me, I don't know. That one's a scary one. I could see them falling pretty darn quick on there.
It's the same thing though with the Pac-12 North, though. It's wide open. So I mean, why not
So
Stanford?
so are we just picking Pac-12 teams just to have Pac-12 teams in here then?
Probably a little,
Yeah, I think so.
but like the thing with the Pac-12, you've got to have somebody's got to win it. Like that's kind of the conception with Pac-12. Somebody's got to win the division. Somebody's got to win the title. But with the SEC, it's like, oh, well, I mean, like this team or this team or this team. And a lot of the times, it's pretty comparable when you want to look at the numbers and really get down to it. So I think it comes down to respect. What's Stanford going to be able to do out of the gate in the non-conference and starting conference play? Like, if they can go out strong and keep it rolling, then yeah, that's a team to watch out for, no matter who you are. So yeah, like the Pac-12 though, it's a rough go. They're not in a big conversation.
All right. So that's going to bring us to our next team, UCF. And I'm just gonna pose this right away as some folks are still thinking UCF is gonna deserve to be in the top 5 and they're gonna deserve to be in the conversation.
They're not.
Slow your roll, people. They're still gonna be a good team this year. Don't deny that. They are gonna be a great team. They're gonna be able to knock off some really, really tough individuals, but outside, they got a couple of favorable matchups with Stanford and Pitt, and but outside of that, they play Cincinnati, Tulane, and Temple on the road, and the fact that those could be tricky, those could pose a problem. They could lose those games. When you have a conversation about a team that everybody's hyping should be in the conversation to be in the playoffs, and you're like, well, put them against Cincinnati, Tulane, and Temple, and they might not win. No, stop it. Like,
Yeah.
I love UCF. I love what they've done. It started with Scott, and it's moved on to what, Josh
Hoople.
Hoople.
The fact that he was able to take the reins from the hottest coach in the country and churn out another undefeated regular season, that's amazing. And that made his stock skyrocket. But with UCF, it's all about the mystique. It's like the Boise State factor. They're that underdog. They're that exciting.
Yeah, but they don't have a blue field. This shit's about over.
They didn't need it because they had the hottest coach in the country. And now that he's gone and they finally lost a game, the mystique's kind of gone. So the fact that they're still in preseason top 25s, that shows the respect for what they've built and been able to maintain. But yeah, it's not like they're going to go undefeated again this year. And that first loss, they're probably going to fall out of most rankings. So unless they turn in almost perfection, they're not going to be there at the end of the year. Yeah, Cincinnati, Tulane, Temple, Stanford, Pitt, they're not going to go 5-0 there, are they? I don't see it. I just don't. And Mackenzie Milton, he's not even playing. I think he's still out with a leg injury, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. We'll see how that plays out, but yeah, UCF. That's kind of why we have them. They have potential, and that's why we have them at 17. There is a possibility that they could run the table with what they're up against, because that's not an impressive schedule, honestly. Stanford's the biggest team they got on there, and if they only lose to Stanford and get the rest of them, sure, yeah, like their conversation be close to the top 10.
It goes back to what does Stanford do? Who wins that game? They're going to get the respect.
If Stanford and Pitt don't have a good season and they beat both of them, then it doesn't matter.
No, you need to beat Stanford and then have Stanford win their division, because that's the only way UCF stays up there. That's it.
But if Tulane, Temple, or Cincy can any one of them knock them out on one of those off weeks, then it's over. Like, because none of them are ever going to be considered in the top 25 this year. So anyway, all right. So we'll move on. Oregon.
Yes. Man, okay.
The Ducks.
Oh,
Oregon Ducks. Every year, the Ducks somehow they just keep crapping out talent. I don't get how this keeps happening. Oregon State's fallen off the map.
that's fine.
Oregon. Yeah, it is fine. But Oregon somehow keeps coming back into the conversation over and over. And a lot of people have them in close to the top 10 this year.
Yeah, they haven't won a Pac-12 title since 2014. So it's not like they're coming off of a big season. Like it's been a while since they've been in the mix. What Oregon has is what they've always had, and that's just big, flashy, consistent, big time plays, and they do that. Like when you're channel surfing and you see Oregon, you stop, you watch a little bit because you're like, okay, if they're on offense, I want to see this, and even if they're on defense, like they're out there playing offense while they're playing defense. Oregon's a fun team to watch. They have a specific niche that they've just kind of mastered, and I kind of like them to win the Pac-12. There's another team that will have something to say about that, so yeah, I'm going to keep it simple. I really think it just comes down to at Washington, and I think they have Stanford at home. They do have an opener against Auburn, but Auburn's going to be ranked high, so they can lose that one. It's not like it's going to hurt them down the road.
So there's quite a few interesting games they have. So looking at their schedule, they open with Auburn, like you said. That one could go either way, honestly, in my opinion. I think Auburn takes it personally. They do play, of course, they play Stanford. They have no problem with Cal. I think, honestly, Colorado, in early October, they play Colorado. Well, we get to see Colorado and get our little vengeance shot, but we've seen Colorado does have talent, and they can turn some things around. Not only that, they play Washington and then Washington State right after. If they can make it, like, this isn't murderer's row like we talked about before, but this is not an easy schedule, folks. Like,
No. It's not.
so you look, they go from Colorado to Washington State, then they hit USC. They don't get a break. Like, holy crap. That's not what I would want in my lineup as a regular season this year. Like, that's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah,
Like, you look at Big Ten tough. Big Ten tough's different. Big Ten, you're like Ohio State,
yeah.
Michigan. Oh my God! And like, this isn't Big Ten tough, but this is still
No.
pretty dang tough.
It's a different animal as far as toughness goes, but it's style of play versus style of play, and the style of play still matches up with itself. So, yeah, it's not the same thing, but yeah, it's still how do you rebound from a loss? How do you maintain it if you can come up with a win out of the gate with a tough slate? So, I don't know. I'm going to be watching them. I mean, it's a team I usually do stop on, regardless of who they're playing. So. Maybe that I probably got them a little higher than they should be just because of who they are, but it's an exciting team, and they're a good team.
Yeah, I think now that we've gotten past the allure of their uniform changes all the time, we've got to focus on the fundamentals of their football. And hey, another team that Scott Frost had a little bit dealing with and
Yeah.
helping grow. So.
Yep. Always got a reference there. Yeah, moving up another Pac-12, we've got Utah. Heavy favorite in the South. It's one of those
This is
teams.
number 15, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I think that's what we had them at. I'll check here. Yep, yes.
Yeah.
On my list, they're number 15.
Yes. So, man, this is one of those teams that it's like every 6, 7 years they have one of those just glorious seasons where everything's kind of just seems to go right. Everything falls into place. It doesn't like when Urban Meyer was there. Now Kyle Whittingham, he's been there for a while now. their defense is just one of the best in the game at the college level. They just churn out big playmakers on defense every year. I really, what was, I don't know much about their offense. I'll be completely honest. Like when I'd watch them and I do my channel surfing, I'd watch them. And I'd always love watching their defense because they really had it. And I think I remember distinctly a couple games last year seeing them. It's like one game they looked just unstoppable, and then I remembered stopping on them the next week, and man, they didn't look good at all. So they weren't one of those super consistent teams, if memory serves right. So where do they land? I think they're the heavy favorite in the South. I think they're going to win the South, but will they win the entire Pac-12? I expect it to be Utah, Oregon, personally.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. They got a solid receiving core when it comes to looking at the offensive side of the ball. Their quarterback, I think last year was like 58%. You want a little bit better than that, of course, but still not terrible. That's pretty good. That's pretty consistent. Um, I as I look through them and we compare them to Oregon on their strength of schedule. So, we talked, it's not Murderers Row in Oregon by any means, but you look at their schedule versus Utah. Utah opens up with BYU, so that's a totally different ballgame compared to Auburn, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
if they start off the season losing to BYU, wow, that would be just awful for the
yeah.
program.
That tanks your season right out of the gate. It does.
But then they're cushy. They do a Northern Illinois, they do an Idaho State, they do, and then we get to USC. We'll see how that game goes. That could be a challenge. That could be a tough one. And then we go to Washington State. Okay. Now we're talking some real talent and some issues there. Then we go to Oregon State. They get a nice little break there. Then Arizona State, maybe a little bit tougher. Then we go to Cal, kind of middle of the road, probably not going to be a big issue. And then we get to Washington. So they get probably a 3-week break between Washington State and Washington. Maybe that's 4 week. Maybe I'm not counting a bye in there. I guess I'm not watching the dates, but that's a good time in between to get better between teams. So even if they lost to USC or even if they lost to Washington State, they get good 3-week or more time frame to get better before they hit Washington. After Washington, they hit UCLA. So they get 2 weeks of some challenges. But I think that 3-week to 4-week time period in between is going to be key for them. And I think that's what drives them into the Pac-12 championship. Honestly, is they're going to have time to recover if they have a hiccup. But honestly, you look at that schedule, it's pretty light heading in. I could easily see them being 10-0 after UCLA, and then they finish out the season against Arizona and Colorado. They
There you
could
go.
easily be undefeated. They
There it is.
could.
There it is. They're going to finish the year with, I expect, a couple easy matchups. So yes, that's good. That's really good analysis. I can't disagree with any of that. So yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. 100% right. It could be a very big year for them.
All right. So that brings us to number 14 in our top 25, Washington State Cougars. That's something we haven't talked about in a long time. Washington State being on the radar.
Hey man, they fly their flag once, twice, 3 times at every game day. So it's not like they're completely forgotten.
No, not completely. So I think it's so interesting that this division's got so many teams. Like, do we honestly? So we've called out how many now? That in
It's a lot. The Pac-12. I said this before, but it's the respect for what they do when they lose. Like it's not the same as the SEC. When they lose a game, they're almost an afterthought. SEC can lose 2 games in a row. Some teams stay in the top 25. It's not the same with the Pac-12. We've got a lot of teams from the Pac-12 in our top 25. Half of them are going to be gone like that because they'll lose a game and then they quickly become an afterthought. Washington State, Mike Leach, he's just one of those coaches that you can never count out of a game heading into it because he comes up with these crazy plays that could maybe pull him out of a nasty spot. He's a mad professor for a reason. It's been a good fit. I didn't think it would be when he first got hired on there, but he's done some really good stuff with them, and he's made them a contender in the North.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is what they're up against this year. So they start the season New Mexico State, Northern Colorado. Who the hell? I don't even know what their mascot is. It looks like
Northern Colorado would be an FCS team. I don't
It
know.
looks like a bear. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they play Houston, and then their first actual half-ass challenge is going to be UCLA. After that, then they play Utah. I could see them losing both of those.
Oh yeah. UCLA, I think, is gonna be a tough go for everybody. Like even if they finish 6-6, that's a team that's going to play it tough and fast. So Washington State's kind of the same way. So that's a game I could really look forward to. But man, if they win that, I, I don't know. What do they got after that?
So after that, they go to Arizona State. Then Colorado comes to them. And they lost to Colorado in a little bit of a heartbreaker last year. It was like 38-24.
Okay, yeah. So
But
yeah,
they,
Colorado just kind of played spoiler for everybody, but still somehow managed to turn in a crappy year.
yeah, that's what Colorado does. But then after Colorado, so their competition gets tougher. So like it doesn't get easy for them, and this is why I'm regretting my pick on Washington State being this high because I originally wanted them in the high 20s, and some reason I got talked into bringing them down on my rankings. But I look at the schedule and I remember why. Not only do they have UCLA and they have Utah. They get a break with Arizona State, but then they have Colorado, who gave them a heartbreaker last year, so that'll be a tough game. Then they play Oregon. Then they play Cal. Then they have a couple of, then they have Stanford, honestly.
Yeah.
After Cal, they have Stanford. Then they have Oregon State, that'll be fine. But then they play Washington. This is not a good schedule for them.
No, it's
not
bad matchup for most of their weeks. But if you can come out ahead on a lot of that, I think that's going to look really good on a resume. But it's the Pac-12, and at best, what 9-3, 10-2, which is still
I think that's
respectable.
Tough. I think 9-3 is super tough with that schedule and this team. Like
I'm talking ceiling, like the highest you can get. I think 9-3, 10-2 is probably out of the question. Like 9-3 is still respectable, but you're way out of a playoff berth. So how good is it compared to some of the other ones that are going to be right in that mix? Like
they're not gonna get past Stanford, Utah, or Washington.
One out of those three, maybe. I don't see.
Maybe.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to be a fun team to watch. I don't see them winning the division, though.
All right. We'll move on. Number 13, Auburn. It's one of those teams that just never goes away. Like everybody always is like whether you like Auburn or not, everybody is always like, oh, but maybe they'll beat Alabama.
Well, Auburn for me, like it's you hear the word Auburn and you're like, not Alabama. That's what it is. They have great uniforms. They are in a great state for college football, but they're not Alabama, and they're not as consistent. They have really good seasons, but they finished 8-5, 3-5 in the SEC last year. So it's not like they're riding a bunch of momentum in. It's just they're Auburn, and they're in a great division, and they're gonna be good. They're going to lose a bunch of games, but it's okay because they're losing them to really tough teams. And that's the SEC MO. So are they that good, or is it just benefit of the doubt? I think they're going to be a lot better overall. So I don't know. That Nutrisite opener against Oregon, that should tell us a lot. But yeah, then they've got oh gosh,
Tulane. They after Oregon, they go through Tulane, then Kent State. So there's two easy wins for them. But
yeah, fine tune it.
so like they start off with the challenge against Oregon, and then two easy wins. Sorry, Tulane, Kent State, you're not going to win those. And then you go to You're in Texas A&M. Like, ooh, that's a rough one for you.
Yeah. But that's one of those games. Like, is A&M good or is it benefit of the doubt? Same with Auburn. So somebody's going to come out looking good. Double that if it's a tight game. So yeah, that's where these rankings, these preseason rankings, can mess with your idea of a team. Will Auburn really be that good at the end of the year?
The only reason they have the potential to be in that good, they could be a 2-loss team and still be a top 10 team just because of their strength of schedule. Not only do they play Oregon, Texas A&M, they also, well, yeah, I don't know, Florida you want to consider. I argue with you on this one. But they also play LSU. They play Georgia. They play Alabama. Like,
they're going to lose games.
You can lose. Yeah, you're going to lose one, maybe two of those. If you lose two of those, you're still a top 10 team if you can hang with them. Like, that's some big games.
That's the respect factor.
It is the respect factor because the unfortunate piece of this is you look at their schedule. It's either you're playing this level or this level.
Yeah,
they're not playing a lot of in between. It's the bottom of the heap and the top of the heap. So they get some practice games and then they go into the shit. Like, this gets rough.
Yeah, they're not going to beat Alabama this year, and I don't even have Alabama as the world beater that they typically would be, and they're not going to beat Alabama. Maybe they catch LSU. Maybe that's their big win. But they're not going to beat Alabama, so really that's all it comes down to for me.
All right. Okay. I think that's enough about Auburn then. Number 12, Washington Huskies.
Okay, so yeah, Washington Huskies. Let's wrap up our Pac-12 talk. Like, spoiler alert, this is it. Finally, we're at the end of it. Huskies are the favorite to win the Pac-12 North, maybe the league, if it's not Utah. Chris Petersen. I am a huge fan of Chris Petersen. When he got hired to Washington, I was a little bummed out because I wasn't quite ready to say, hey, fire Bo Pelini, but like, if you're going to do it, this is the guy you hire. Chris Petersen. This guy has done more with little than most people could possibly do at Boise State. So I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought we should have been going after him if we were even having the conversation of getting rid of our coach at the time. Washington picks him up. And steadily, he's turning them into one of the more consistent teams in the country. They kind of got there early. They kind of got in that mix early. And even the talking heads are like, this is a little soon. Like, they won a couple games maybe they shouldn't have. They're in the mix with the record. They're good, but they're not quite there yet. This could be the year where they maybe establish themselves as a legitimate threat and getting into that mix. So I love Chris Petersen. Washington, very, very good team. But part of me still has Oregon as the favorite in the back of my head to win the North.
So I think I think Washington takes the Pac-12, honestly, in my opinion. I really think they have one of the greatest running backs in the country, honestly. Not only that, and then you look at their schedule, and compared to the rest of the Pac-12, to where, again, it's not murderer's row for anybody because it's the Pac-12. Like, I think the Pac-12 is always way overhyped. But you look at what Washington's up against, and we've dove into the rest of what their opponents are up against. It's nothing. It's nothing compared to what they are. They have Eastern Washington, Cal, they got Cal, whatever. They'll be fine. Hawaii, they'll be fine. BYU, they'll be fine. They go up against USC. That's their first halfway challenge there. They should be able to withstand that one. That preps them for Stanford. So then you see the up in the game. So you got three crap teams. Sorry, Hawaii, Cal, and Eastern Washington. But then you step up your game. BYU might be a little bit more of a challenge, and then USC is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, and then all of a sudden you got Stanford, and you're like, okay, I'm prepped. Like, you went from easy to hard, and now you're up against a challenge. Then you go up against Arizona. You get a week off between Stanford and Oregon, so you get kind of a break a little bit. So
Yeah.
that is so nice to have in there. Not only that, so then
Yeah.
after they hit Oregon, then they get, before they play Utah, they get a bye week. So they hit Oregon. If they can win that game, come into that 8-0 to play Utah after a bye week, man, they're top 10 team against Utah, and see where Utah's at that point. And then look at the rest of their season. It's Oregon State, Colorado, and Washington State. I don't see Colorado standing with them. I think they're way too high of a talent for Colorado. I don't see Oregon State standing with anybody. Washington State, yeah, hey, maybe they could throw off a run at the end there, but I could honestly see this team being undefeated at the end of the season with the schedule they have.
I'd be fine with it. I like I said, huge Chris Peterson fan, and you know what, Washington, it's not like they're an untraditional team to see in the mix. Like they've had a tough go, kind of like Nebraska has. Some of the more traditional powers from back in the day. I think they finally got the right guy. And like you said, with a schedule that kind of just, it's not like it's super easy, but it sets up very, very well. I'd love to see them beat Oregon, win the Pac-12 North, win the entire conference, get into the playoff. Something's going to happen. Something is going to happen, and I just have it in my head that Oregon's going to end up winning the division. Maybe not the conference, but they're going to knock Washington out somehow, and that's kind of what sets up the Pac-12 not getting into the playoff. I guess that's where I'm at with it. But, man, I would love to see it.
I'm interested to see it. I think Washington takes it, though. But I guess we'll agree to disagree. That brings us to number 11, Ohio State.
So I don't even like this team at this spot. I'll be completely honest. Ohio State has some of the biggest talent-rich rosters year in, year out.
Can we pause real quick? Because neither of us had them in the top 10. We both had them ranked at about 11 I think I had them at 11 or 12, and you had them at 11 or 12. Like,
yeah.
Why are we ranking Ohio State so goddamn high?
It's because the talent pool, and they churn out good team after good team. Like, even when they're bad, they're still pretty damn good. What it comes down to, forget about the players who've graduated or left. This comes down to one thing only. It's Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's gone. So how are they going to rebound from that? That's my question. He finished with an 83-9 record. Wow, 83-9. That's huge. 7-0 mark against Michigan. You can't just replace that with, Ryan Day. I had to actually quick look. Who is it? Oh, that's right, Ryan Day. Sorry, this isn't like a big name coach. Like, this isn't Jim Tressel to Urban Meyer to Ryan Day. Okay, that's Bob Devaney to Tom Osborne to Frank Solich. Okay, I think that's huge. I think that's the biggest factor. Forget about the team. They've got a lot. They come here. They come to Lincoln. That's a big matchup. They lose that, their season could snowball, be over. They get Penn State, Wisconsin, and Michigan State at home, but they go to Michigan. That's your end of the year. So say they lose to Nebraska, and then they lose to Michigan at the end of the year. They're going to lose another one in there, I think. And even at 9-3 with the schedule they have, still pretty good. But this is not the same Ohio State team that we've seen in the last few years. I just expect a lot of disappointments, and I think there's going to be some real growing pains and some transitional stuff that they just don't click. So I think they're going to be really good. It's going to be a tough out, no matter who they're playing. Not the same team.
So I agree with some and disagree with some. Urban Meyer, of course, being a big loss for him. You always have those coach hiccups, right? You're always going to have some of that. As far as the rest of the coaching staff, you're not going to see as much of that. I think they've probably been able to squelch a lot of things. I think here's just looking at their schedule. Here's what I see. They come into playing Nebraska 4-0. But who do they play before that? They play Florida Atlantic. They play Cincinnati. They play Indiana. And they play Miami of Ohio.
The Red Hawks. Yeah, Red Hawks.
They have no challenges coming into Nebraska.
No. They're going to put up a bunch of numbers, a bunch of yards, and a bunch of wins, and they're not going to be battle-tested.
They're going to be so overhyped coming into that game. And even if they do...
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let them.
Yeah, let them come in overhyped. Even if they do get past Nebraska and beat Nebraska, then they go to Michigan State, which Michigan State's not going to be a great team, but they're going to be a solid team. They're not going to be great. I think that's pretty well known.
Yeah.
But even they're going to put up a fight. And then they go to Northwestern, which Northwestern is no slouch to anybody. And then they go to Wisconsin. Like, they have 4 tough games in a row. Now, and this is why Ohio State gets the nod that they do, is because of the schedule. But I can honestly see them coming into Nebraska at 4-0 and leaving Wisconsin 4-4. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think, you kind of hit it. Like, they're not going to be battle-tested coming into Nebraska. So if they lose that game, does it snowball from there? I would love to see it, honestly.
Not only there, if they go 4-4 and snowball that, then you look at after that. They got Maryland and then Rutgers. They can win those, okay. You get a little rebound. But then you go into Penn State and Michigan. They have a chance at ending this season 6-6, honestly.
I could see it. Transition, it's huge. It's Urban Meyer. It's a big loss. So if things fall apart and don't get fixed quickly, this could go bad very, very fast. And then they still end up beating Michigan.
Yeah, well, and it's one injury away. It really is in this team. They have a lot of talent and a lot of folks on there, but they don't have the experience. We've always ran through that with Urban Meyer's teams, especially after he gone away. As soon as he leaves, the backups didn't have that experience with his type of philosophy and his type of fucking mentorship and how he led those teams. As soon as he leaves, and then you lose that starter, that's not the same mental atmosphere that he creates. So if you like Urban Meyer or not, you've seen this in his prior teams. His quarterbacks, his running backs, his starters, they are his starters. They are his people, and they fight for him. But as soon as he's gone and you bring in a backup, it's rough. Every time it's rough.
Yeah, he's very well known for giving us some of those highlight reel players. Can Ryan Day do that? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, folks, we're gonna start the top 10. And,
yes.
Oh dear, this has been a long one.
Yeah, we've really kind of touched on a lot. And the thing about the top 10, we're not going to say a lot of stuff that's not already fairly well known. So we'll try to keep it shorter. Can't promise anything, but let's dive right in.
All right, number 10, Florida. We got T. We have Florida Gators. Florida Gators. When was the last time we were like coming into a preseason thinking Florida Gators are
Urban Meyer? Urban Meyer.
Oh yeah, he's gone again.
So 4-7 mark 2017. Coach Dan Mullen leads them to a 10-3 record. Awesome. Uh, man, they had a huge bowl win over Michigan. It just wiped the floor of them. So the sky's kind of the limit. The momentum is just, it's huge. You can't deny that. It's Florida, and it's the SEC East, which is obviously the weaker of the two divisions. It's Florida, and it's Georgia. So whoever wins that, inside track, obviously. I just think that they're going to hiccup a few times. I don't know, man. I like them as a team. I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to be legitimate most of the year, but I think they're going to hiccup a couple times. What's that schedule shaking up? You got that?
So the things I see shaking up, they got a pretty favorable start to the year. And it's sad to say that I think they're going to blow through Tennessee as their fourth game of the year. You know, always thought that would be a fun game to watch, but that's not going to be
Not in
one.
a long time, no.
Their first real challenge is Auburn in week 6, so that'll be October 5th. And right after Auburn, then they hit LSU. Then they get about a 3-week break before they hit Georgia. So they got some tough games in there, and then they got some easy ones.
That's a good break, though.
That is a good break, and then they end the season against Florida State. So they got some challenges, but that's honest. That's not a bad schedule. That's not a bad schedule. If you can get past either Auburn or Georgia, I think you got a good chance against LSU or Georgia. If you can beat one of those two and beat Auburn, you're in the top 10. If you can finish off the rest of it, you're good.
There it is. You're getting the respect from what you did last year. You're getting the respect of the SEC, and if you get through one of those big games, it's mostly deserved, and a lot of it's allure. So I can't. Yeah, the schedule just kind of sits up really nicely, but it just comes down to that Georgia game for me. I don't see them winning it personally.
Yeah, that could definitely be a tough one. Ton of talent on that team. We'll move it on down the line. Number 9, we got Texas. The Texas Longhorns.
Boo!
Yeah, never been big Texas fans, but
boo.
What are your thoughts on Texas? Like, how are they going to fare this year? Honestly,
I thought last year was kind of going to be their surprising breakout year, but it just didn't quite work out that way. But Tom Herman is one of those coaches that was just sought after, and it made just such perfect sense for Texas to get him, and they did. And it wasn't going to be an overnight job because Texas had kind of just fallen into a huge rut. But they got Herman, and it's Texas. It's Texas, not Texas Tech. Like this is the Texas of Texas college football. They've got everything at their disposal. They've got a freaking network at their disposal, for crying out loud. It's gonna come together. I think that they're gonna maybe they're sneaking into top tens, but I think they're gonna steadily climb up. And for some damn reason, Oklahoma cannot get past them at the midway point of the year. Like they find a way to lose that game, no matter how bad Texas is. They find a way to lose that game. So if Texas can do what they always do and beat heavy favorite Oklahoma, they have kind of an inside track after that to coast towards the end of the year and maybe even fight for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I could see that. And just kind of looking at their schedule in general, well, and this goes for any Big 12 team, which isn't really a Big 12 conference.
Nope.
It's a fake conference. Sorry, folks. Anyway, so they have a really all Big 12 teams for the most part have a favorable schedule, and so the one thing I'll give kudos to Texas on is week 2 on the 7th of September they face LSU right away.
Yeah.
That defense is going to get tested, and that's what they struggled with last year. So, and that's what they wanted to gain the improvements on, and heading into this season, they're going to get tested right away. I don't see them coming out of that one alive, personally.
No, probably not.
After that, though, very favorable. You're up against Rice. Oklahoma State's kind of fallen off over the last few years. West Virginia's slowed down a lot, and then they hit Oklahoma. And that's of course what you just mentioned is that's always a challenge for both teams. It's always a struggle no matter which way you look at it. Then you face Kansas. TCU could be a little bit of a challenge for them, but they should be able to handle TCU. TCU is talented, but they should be able to handle that. K-State shouldn't be a challenge for them.
No.
Iowa State might be a hiccup on the road, but they should be able to handle that one.
Yep.
Baylor, they should be able to handle. And Texas Tech, you never know.
No, it sets up well. You win that Oklahoma game, and it's just kind of smooth sailing for the most part. Iowa State, they kind of have the Texas number in the past. K-State a little bit too, but no, Iowa State just seems to catch them at the right time a lot of years. Even if they don't win, they catch them at a good time. So that could be that hiccup game. But yeah, I don't know. Win that Oklahoma game, all bets are off.
Yep, for sure. All right, moving on. Then we got number 8, Penn State.
Yes, Nittany Lions.
The Nittany Lions, and these folks could cause some damage this year. We saw last year they really nobody. I don't know. Everybody expects Penn State to do well, but last year they gave some people some tough challenges that we honestly probably didn't see coming.
No, they kind of popped up out of nowhere as far as one of the big teams in the Big Ten. And it kind of comes down to they have to replace quarterback Trace McSorley. So I think they got a sophomore who saw a little bit of time, but that's huge. So if they can, make up for that huge loss, I don't know. But the rest of the team is just rock solid. And obviously, the Big Ten East, we expect Ohio State to be down a little bit. So if they beat Ohio State, can they beat Michigan? If they win both of those, Penn State could be right in the mix of things.
Yeah, if they can hold that defense, like you lose McSorley, that's a huge loss.
That's massive.
That is a massive loss. But if they can keep that defensive pressure like they did last year, where they kept teams 24 points or under a game,
Yeah.
that gives you a chance to win every game. Like
Yeah.
if you can keep this score that low, it's anybody's game. It's a puncher's chance if you look at it in like a fighter's terms or MMA terms.
Yes.
And then you look at their schedule, and they open up so soft. You got Idaho, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Maryland, Purdue. Before
Don't
their
sleep
first,
on Purdue.
they're gonna be, yeah, they'll be fine. Then week 6 they go into Iowa. That's their first challenge is Iowa.
Yeah. So they're going to be fresh, kind of hitting that midway point, which not a lot of
they're
teams.
going to work out a lot of bugs. They're going to be feeling good. They're going to be stretched out. I see this team coming into the big. Well, actually, Michigan comes to Penn State, so not only
That's big.
you go into Iowa 5-0, and then you have Michigan come to you possibly 6-0.
Yeah.
That's a
huge.
great start. And then that sets you up against Michigan State, Minnesota, Indiana before you hit and go to Ohio State. So you have the potential of going into Ohio State at what, 10-0?
Man, if they could beat Ohio State and be 10-0, forget about it.
I see Penn State potentially being undefeated or a one-loss team this year.
Yeah, they do have the potential. I can't disagree at all. I'll be watching Penn State probably every chance I get. I just expect them to play really good football. So yeah, they're going to be one to watch for sure.
If that defense can hold up,
Yeah,
they have the schedule. They have the schedule. If they
even
can-
with a mediocre quarterback, they could. Yeah,
Yeah, you get through that schedule and hold that defense, you're good. They'll be solid.
Fair enough. Let's move down.
Next on the list is LSU.
This one's tough for me, man. Like they're gonna be an awesome team. It's Louisiana. And Ed Orgeron's like one of those very respected coaches in the coaching scene, but it's the same as it was with Les Miles. They're gonna find ways to lose games they shouldn't, and that's going to drop them out of the division race, and ultimately they'll get a really nice bowl game. But yeah, they're still a really good team, but they're not. They are spoken of in that upper echelon, but they never find themselves in that upper echelon. When was the last time they were in a national championship picture? When they played Alabama, who didn't even win the conference that year.
Yep.
They lost that game. So yeah, I don't know. It's just every once in a while it comes together for LSU, and Ed Orgeron's a good enough coach. Like I think, honestly, I could see this being his last year because I think the hype train's big, the ranking is high, and if they don't produce some real quality wins this year, he's out. I don't know if they will or not. I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, well, we'll see. They got a halfway soft beginning of their year, so Georgia Southern, and then week 2 was against Texas, which they could easily fall into that one. I don't see them losing to Texas, but it could happen. They got
I
a
see
couple.
it. I'll probably bet on Texas. Honestly, I would. I would bet on Texas.
It very well could be. After that, they get 3 easy weeks before they come into Florida comes to LSU on the 12th of October. And then it's not until what, 26th October, Auburn comes to LSU. So their two biggest games after Texas are at home, and then they go to Alabama. They're gonna lose that.
Yeah.
Then they go to Mississippi. They'll be fine. Arkansas comes to LSU. Texas. They get. It's honestly. I could see a three loss season and then being in the top 15 non-deservingly.
I could also see him being 6-6.
We'll see.
So probably somewhere in the middle, 7
I
and
could
5,
see
8
it.
and 4.
I could see them being a 3-loss team that is just very unimpressive.
Yep, that's probably fair. I don't know. I think they're going to disappoint. They find ways to do it, but we'll see. Moving up. Here we go. We're getting into the thick of it.
Number 6, Notre Dame.
Yes. Okay. So the Irish, Brian Kelly. He's been when he came from Cincinnati. Like Cincinnati was coming off an undefeated. Like that was that year that like we had 5 undefeated teams in the BCS, and only 2 were getting in. And Cincinnati was right on the cusp. So it was really hard for him to walk away from that job to take the Notre Dame job, but at the same time, it was Notre Dame. And that was like 2009, if I'm not mistaken, or 2008, somewhere in there.
Something like that. Yeah.
So it's been like 10 years. So he's been there for a while. They've gotten to the championship once and just got embarrassed by Alabama. But they're still churning out really great seasons. It looks like they're favored. They're going to be favored, like 10 out of the 12 games is what the talking heads are saying. They've got road trips to Georgia and Michigan. That's huge. Like for this team to be ranked that high and face 2 teams that we haven't even talked about yet on this list. Yeah, wow. And they have obviously they've got USC, I believe, still. So Stanford on the schedule. It's not an easy run. It's not. And they're an independent, so they got Army right, too. I mean, they do not have an easy go of this. If they can navigate this, look out. Like, if this team wins a lot, like 10, 11 games, look out. They're in the playoff, no doubt. A 10-2 Notre Dame team is getting into the playoff.
Yeah, I think they have a dark horse too at their quarterback position. Everybody's talking this Heisman hype already, and Taylor Martin or yeah, Martinez is sorry, Taylor. Jesus,
I know. We still have a
ugh,
Martinez. Like it seems insane. Like
goddamn Martin.
for the last like 10 years, we've had a Martinez at quarterback. It feels like.
Yeah, it seems like it. But anyway, Ian Brook last year, 68% for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns,
Wow,
and
that's good numbers,
he took over. Like he wasn't the
man.
original guy. He took over.
Okay, so as good as that is if you lose him, is your season over?
Possibly. But that could be anybody. That could be Nebraska. That could be LSU. That could be Alabama. That could be Oklahoma. You lose your starting QB, any team could be over for the year. But I think a lot of folks are looking past this. Ian Book, is it Book or Brook? I can't remember. Anyway, phenomenal quarterback. This kid's going to be great this year. I think their offense is going to be just fantastic. They're going to be something to watch out for. And they honestly, even though Notre Dame always is known for, their schedule, and in looking at it, you just always are just shaking your head of like, okay, how does this work? But they go 2 weeks of so they start in Louisville, and then they have New Mexico at home. But then week 3, they're in Georgia. Boom. That is like, that's ballsy. That's
Yeah,
why these guys get the mention. They get the respect because they'll do this every year.
yeah.
And then Virginia, Bowling Green, they get a couple weeks off, and then
Virginia's
USC.
getting a lot of preseason love too, so
Yeah,
this is this is
but they
not.
play
You know,
they play at Notre Dame. So uh,
still,
then USC comes to Notre Dame, but then Notre Dame goes to the Big House this year in the 7th game of the season. See if they can take that win there. I like it. I like their schedule outside of probably Georgia, Michigan. Those are their two biggest challenges. If they can beat those two, they're undefeated this year.
yeah. And you're talking what a 12-1 mark last year, so man, I don't think it's gonna be that good. I expect, like you said, quarterback play huge. He's taken over games. That's going to continue, probably even better. But I'm going to say like 10-2. I think they're going to lose one of those big ones and maybe get caught in a hiccup game. 10-2. They just missed the playoff.
Sure. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. We're about to dive into the top 5.
Yes. Oh man.
About goddamn time.
Yeah, it's been a journey, guys. Yeah, we didn't know this one was going to go as long as it did, but hey, we like to chit chat.
You ready to get in the top 20 or top 25? Oh Jesus, oh God, this has been such a long podcast already. You ready to get in the top 5, T?
Hell yeah, let's
Oh,
do this.
let's do this. Number 5. Agree or disagree? This is probably a respect pick more than anything, I'd say. But they also probably deserve a nod in the top 10, if nothing else. But Michigan.
Yep, Michigan. Wow. The thing about Michigan is every time you think they're right there on the cusp, Urban Meyer would smack them back down to reality. Be like, no, you're not ready. There's no Urban Meyer anymore. And this is still Jim Harbaugh. He puts together a hell of a team year in and year out. I think they win the East, even over Penn State, flat out. They have Shea Patterson, senior. I think that's the difference maker over Penn State. They lose McSorley. They retain Shea Patterson for one more year. And with Ohio State being down, that's it. That's what it comes down to. It's very simple. No Urban Meyer, no Trace McSorley. They have Shea Patterson. They win the East. They probably win the Big Ten. Get to the playoff.
Yeah, I would agree, and a lot of people have Ohio State and Michigan in the top five on their lists and their rankings, but they get the Big Ten East and what that looks like. I really see Michigan taking off with it, not only with the talent they have, looking at their, of course, typically what I've been doing on this one, just pulling up their schedule and looking through it. They start off pretty cushy. I will say, upset alert, watch out, Army on the 7th.
All right,
September
fair enough.
7th, watch out for Army. They're not going to be ready for that. Army is a consistent team. But if they get past Army, their first challenge is Wisconsin, then probably Iowa's their next one in October. Then it's Penn State, Notre Dame. If they get past that and they come out 8-0, man, like I don't know how you can't put them in contention, because at the end of the year, of course, they play up against Ohio State, and I honestly see Ohio State not only losing 2 to 3 games, but one of them being in Nebraska. I don't think that game will matter anymore. I think by the time we get to Ohio State, Michigan, which is gonna be in the Big House, so it's in Michigan's favor already. I think Michigan's already clinched the division. No matter what happens with Ohio State, I think it comes down to Michigan against Nebraska for the Big Ten championship. I really don't see anybody stopping them unless Ohio State can really run the table. But I think they're going to have problems this year.
I think you're right. Man, it's got to come together for Michigan one of these years. And why not the year that Ohio State we expect to be down? Why not the year that Penn State's going to replace stuff? Hey, yeah, Michigan State, tough team, but they're going to beat Little Brother this year. It's going to happen like that. Because even though they've kind of gotten owned by Michigan State a lot in recent years, not this year. I feel like they're favored in every game that they're going to be in. So I think Michigan is one of the top 5 teams in the country to beat. I think they win the Big Ten, and that's really all I need to say.
Yep. I want Nebraska to win the Big Ten, but I think Michigan's going to end up taking it, which kudos to them. So that'll bring us up to number 4.
Yes.
We got Alabama, and neither of us had them at number 1 or number 2, I believe.
No, and it's the same reason, like, okay, eventually it's got to come together for Michigan. Eventually it's got to come together the opposite way for Alabama. Like, at some point, they're not going to be the world beater. At some point, they're not going to win every game. So, I don't know. It's not like I'm looking at their schedule or looking at their roster and going,
oh, I'm looking at their schedule. Their schedule is crap. Their strength of schedule is terrible. And this is classic Alabama. Everybody touts Alabama as this great team, and, they just steamroll over everybody. Let's see who they're going to steamroll over this year.
Now, before you even get into it, who are they going to play the week before they play Auburn? Let me guess. FCS team or like Kent State? Who is it?
WCU. I don't even know who that is.
Oh, jeez. There you have it. Okay. Eventually, this piss-poor scheduling is going to catch up with them, and they're going to get caught by one of these teams. And it's going to instantly destroy their credibility for the rest of the year. They're going to question themselves. Wheels are going to fall off, and they're going to have a bad year at like 9-3. That's a bad year for Alabama. I hope that this is the year. Like, I'm so sick of seeing him in the playoff. I'm just sick of Nick Saban. I can't stand him. And I'm sure that's the same thing that everybody used to say about Nebraska. But, man, come on. They need a down year. They need a dose of reality. That fan base, they deserve a hefty dose of reality. It's been like 10 years. Please let this be the year. But at the same time, the schedule, as bad as it is, they've still got some of the best damn talent in the world. Like, they could probably put this team up against some of the worst teams in the NFL and still fare decent.
Well, you would think, but here's the Oh my God. And this happens year after year. And Alabama fans just get on their Roll Tide horses and think their team is so damn great. But you've heard through this podcast the teams that are playing 5 to 6 really challenging teams and top contenders to be in the top 25 or even top 15. They're not. They're playing Duke, New Mexico State, South Carolina, Southern Miss, Mississippi. Their first real challenge is Texas A&M, and you know, and I hope the Aggies can just. That's just one I'm gonna be like. I'm gonna watch that game.
Okay. So if we're expecting Alabama to not be
They get a bye week heading into that. By the way, they get a bye week into their first actual game of the year.
Man, that's scheduled. Okay.
They come into that. They come into that and play Tennessee. Okay, yeah, they're not anybody anymore. Arkansas, yeah, sorry, not anybody anymore. And then they get LSU. We'll see. We'll see where LSU is at that time of the year, but that's their only actual challenge.
I'm so torn because it's Nick Saban, it's Alabama, and it's some of the best players. Not just college football, in football, they just churn out talent. Like they oversign. They have to get rid of good players every year because they oversign. So you know they're stacked, you know they're deep, but that schedule sucks. And if they're not battle tested by the time they finally get tested, maybe they get slapped around a bit. Maybe they get a dose of reality. I'm hoping this is the year. I'd love them to see him fall towards the bottom of the top 25. It'd be great.
If it's not A&M that takes them down, it's going to be that's the only thing. It's either A&M, the Aggies take him down, or the Tigers take him down, or Auburn. So LSU, Auburn, or Texas A&M. Those are the only 3 real teams they played this year.
Okay, so now I guess looking at it that way, like Texas A&M, you really fought for this. Okay, with a schedule like that, maybe they catch them here. And then you've got both teams like right up there. So it's just a catch-22. How bad do you hate Alabama? How much do you want to see the SEC in the top 25?
And this is why I did not rank them very high, and I did not put them in the top 2 or 3. It was because this crappy schedule. This is terrible. Even if they win all these, that's not impressive. It's compared to what everybody else will have to do to get into the top 10 or the top 5 and to win out and be undefeated. Like even Notre Dame, that's impressive. You look at you look at what the Big Ten would have to do. You look at what any of these other conferences would have to do. But Alabama's got this PUD schedule.
No, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt no matter what. It doesn't matter who you put them up against. They've mastered the art of scheduling. It's honestly, it's a work of art. Because you look at it, you're like, okay, they're a big out-of-conference game. It's a neutral site game every year. And by neutral site, I mean they can take a bus. The other team has to take a plane. And their big game heading into rivalry week against Auburn, the week before they play nobody. It might as well be a bye week. And then the actual bye week, it's scheduled just perfectly. And they get away with it because they're Alabama. So eventually, something's got to give, right? This is going to be the year. This is going to be the year.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, enough Roll Tide talk. I'm tired.
Roll Tide!
I'm tired of that elephant. Whatever he is. Anyway, all right, moving on. Number 3, Oklahoma Sooners.
Yep, all right. Yeah, I like Oklahoma to win the Big 12. I think they're the best team in the league. They're fast. They're strong. They make big plays. They stop big plays. If they can just get the Texas monkey off their back midway through, if they can get that win, they never seem to have a problem beating Oklahoma State. Like, even if it's a tight game, they still come out the winner. So really, it comes down to that Texas game, and I like their chances this year. I think they win. I think they win the Big 12, get into the playoff. Very
Yeah,
simple.
they got a favorable schedule, and it's not
This be their
weak.
third consecutive trip if they can do that.
It's not a weak schedule by any means. We just kind of came off the Alabama one where it was a bunch of teams you didn't know. Um, you look at this one. You got Houston and South Dakota. Yeah, okay, that's your opener. But then
Wow.
after that, it's UCLA, it's Texas Tech, it's Kansas, it's Texas, it's West Virginia. Like every week is an actual team that you have a threat with. So kudos to the schedule here. I think it's a tough road, but it's consistent play, and you know what? That's what Oklahoma does every year. They're they're a man's team. They like
Yeah.
as much as I grew up a Husker fan and supposed to be raised to hate Sooners.
Uh,
this is a manly schedule right here, and
yeah.
I hope they make it. I hope they take it to the playoffs and represent well.
But like what Texas has with Iowa State, and like Ohio State has with Purdue, Oklahoma has trouble with like Kansas State. Like every year, like they just play down to somebody in a way that they shouldn't. And I don't know enough about K State this year, I guess. I don't even know if it's on the road there, or if they're playing this at Oklahoma. Doesn't matter. Like that, I guess that's going to be the game. Or maybe like the upstart with Les Miles of Kansas. One of those games is going to be a big trap game. Can they get out of it with the win? And if they can, yep, third consecutive playoff, no doubt about it. Win the Big 12.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see how that comes. You're right. They have a slip up every now and then, and those get frustrating, but they happen. Number two, we got Georgia
Yeah,
Bulldogs.
there it is. Okay, so now we know. Georgia at number two. This is more than justified. The case could easily be made for number one. Georgia is just a world beater of a team right now. I think they're probably the best team in the country, top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams. They just
How about that QB Jake Fromm? What almost 2,800 yards last year, 30 touchdowns, and only 6 picks.
that's video game numbers. That's why they're in everybody's top four. And honestly, I think they should get more consideration for number one or number two. They are stacked. Like I'm reading over their depth chart. It's sick. Like it makes me beyond jealous. This is a team nobody wants to play, but they do have Notre Dame. They've got that Florida game, obviously decide the East. A&M at Auburn, but they're going to be favored in all those. They're going to be favored. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
probably going to win all of them. This is a 12-0 team. This is a 12-0 team. They win the East. They win the SEC. They go to the playoff. And oh man, it'd be hard pressed to bet against them.
Yeah, I agree. Very easily could be 12-0 team. That's the only two they got to worry about, in my opinion. Well, they need to worry about everything all the time, of course. Any college football team does, but that's the two games to watch is Auburn and the Notre Dame game. So, those two could get interesting. We'll see where Auburn's at that point of the year. That's mid-November. They could be in dire straits at that point, or that's what I see with Auburn a lot of times is after they lose a couple games early in the season, they just kind of give it up. They know they're
Yeah,
not going to the boat, so they don't
yeah,
care.
yeah. But this is a team that has everything to lose, and even if they turn an 11-1 campaign, they're not out of it. This is such a good team. Nobody's going to count this team out, even with one loss. No, this is a team that's probably going to be in the playoff, no matter how it shakes out.
Yep. So that leaves only one team left: Clemson Tigers.
They're the reigning national champs. They have to be one. The beauty of the preseason poll is you can do whatever the hell you want with it. We're not professional sports analysts. We're just two guys.
We're
on a
not.
podcast.
Bullshit. I am.
I didn't want to break it to you this way, but I'm sorry. Number one has to be the reigning defending national champions, especially Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. I remember reading like 10 years ago in a preseason mag, like, hey, this is a sleeping giant. Something's going to give, and this team's going to blow up. Boy, have they. They have been the craw in Alabama's craw soup. Man. And yeah, they don't win it every time, but they did. They're the national champions. They deserve the number one spot. Dabo, my God, that's a coach right there. Anybody would love to have him. Everybody would love to have this roster. Holy crap. You can't say enough good about this team. Like, if it came down to Georgia and Clemson in the national championship game, that's huge. That's a huge game. That's probably, honestly, the biggest money-making championship we've seen in a long, long, long time. This is a great team.
Yeah, so this team, you're right. There's so many weapons. The quarterback's a sophomore or junior this year. He's really, really dynamic. And
yeah, he's a sophomore. Trevor Lawrence, sophomore. Yep.
Like, he's gonna be. He was great last year. He's gonna be even more. And more great, is that whatever?
More greater, yes.
More greater.
Love it.
But like, they got some really fun games to look forward to. Opening week against Georgia Tech. Now I get it. Georgia Tech's not going to be a huge challenge for him.
Oh, that's a conference game. That's a conference game. That's awesome.
That is, and that's what makes it fun. Is you open up that way. Georgia Tech's going to be gunning. Week 1, you don't know what Georgia Tech's going to bring at you. There's no studying teams, and that's what makes these so fun right off the bat. Then you got a Texas A&M right afterwards. So, like, they get into the trenches right away, so you get to see what Clemson is made of. They don't get to practice it. They just have to get after it and see what they're made of.
The last footage that Georgia Tech has to watch of Clemson is Clemson smacking around Alabama. So
yeah. I don't know if I want to watch that.
No, you want to talk about coming out guns hot? Good luck, Georgia Tech. You can come out fired up all you want. You're going to get murdered in that game. I'm taking not just the overs and the spread. Yeah, that I'm putting that in a parlay. Clemson is going to murder Georgia Tech. I don't care how good they are. They're going to destroy Georgia because they've got something to prove. They've got more than something to prove. Like, they've got to contain and sustain this momentum, and I think they will. It's going to be awesome.
The only negative criticism I have against Clemson is the same thing I have against Alabama, is the schedule. So, yes, I was just touting how they open it up with some exciting games and some fun. But this is what happens, is then they kind of fade off the charts and nobody pays attention.
They got Texas A&M.
Yeah, so week 1 Georgia Tech, week 2 Texas A&M, and then they kind of disappear, and nobody cares about Clemson for a while because they play Syracuse, and then they play Charlotte, and then they play North Carolina. Then they'll play Florida State, and they might come back up, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, look, they're 5-0 against
Oh, that's
Florida
right, we
State.
forgot. This team's really good. They're our favorite.
Hey, they're the national champs last year." And then they're going to disappear again playing against Louisville, Boston College.
Yeah.
Wofford? Where the hell is Wofford?
I think it's Wofford. I don't know.
Wofford?
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Then NC State, then Wake Forest,
Oh,
then South Carolina.
Back it up. You watch out for that NC State game because NC State, they almost ruined Clemson's season last year.
Either way, not much better than Alabama, honestly.
But it doesn't have to be. Like you said, Alabama's mastered how to set their season up to be in a position week in and week out to be number 1. Clemson's figuring that out too. And then they went ahead and smacked Alabama around. So, yeah, the schedule's very, very favorable. It sets them up to be ranked number 1 for weeks to come. So it's brilliant scheduling on their part. Good for them, defending champs. You can't really fault them for it. But yeah, like you said, people will forget about them for a few weeks. They're not going to be the hot team to watch because nobody's watching half those games. Most of the ACC games, nobody's watching. It's just not an intriguing conference to Oh man, I can't wait to see those 3 hot ACC matches this week. Nobody cares. Yeah, the
I know.
Louisville, even with the NC State potential pickup, that's not going to be a highly televised game that people are watching. So yes, they will disappear, but they're still going to be in that top spot.
So I'm just comparing Clemson's schedule. So we had Texas A&M. Did we have Texas A&M? Yeah, we had them in our top 25.
Yeah, and
Um,
they'll fall out probably. Pretty.
Florida State, we did not. They were
Nope.
close, but they did not. That's it. That's the only top 25.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one top 25 team that they get to play. Let's look at Nebraska's schedule. Nebraska, top 25 that we had picked at least.
Right.
Ohio State, Northwestern,
Iowa,
Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
Iowa.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That's why the Big Ten eats itself alive
Yep.
because, yeah.
Well, that's what they say about the SEC West, but at the same time, you're playing a tough team in LSU, but you also got what, Wofford? Okay, yeah.
Oh, Wofford. Wofford.
Yep,
Is it
those world beaters.
Wooford or Wofford? I
Uh,
still.
let's go with Waffle.
I'm just gonna bark. Christ.
So yeah,
Anyway.
college football is all about scheduling, folks. There's what it boils down to.
Yes. Yes.
I, I
That was a lot of good talk about.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how this season shakes out. Tony. So I. Who do you think's going to be in the playoffs? If you had to pick 4 teams, and you're going through the 4 conferences, or well, the 4 conference picks,
Well, it's
and
not the Pac-12, so yeah, the 4.
yeah, so like who do you see making it?
Actually, I got Georgia at number 1 seed, and I think I had Oklahoma at the number 4 seed, and then I have Clemson and Michigan 2 and 3, which is interchangeable. I think that's your playoff, and I think 1 and 2 comes down to Georgia, Clemson for the national championship. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it was Georgia. Like if I had to bet right now, I would probably bet Georgia.
So who would your wild horses be?
Well, Nebraska, obviously.
That's
Come
definitely a
on.
wild horse. I don't see us making it as much as I would
No.
love it. I don't see us making it, but that is a good
No.
wild horse. I like that.
Um, pick another team out of the SEC because that's the respect the SEC gets because there's always going to be the talk of
Just pick a name.
yeah,
Pick a name out of the hat.
yeah because should they get 2 teams in since there's so many ranked in the top 25? That's a conversation every year
Well,
when
if they
there's
all
like
have
three.
an awesome schedule.
Yeah, and then there's 3 other teams like, hey, we have like 1 loss or no losses. No, but that SEC team that didn't win their division, let's talk about them quick. So yeah, pick a team there. And then of course, if the Pac-12 gets a team into a position where it can get into a playoff, like a Washington, hey, there you go. Or Notre Dame. Like those are 2 teams that could be like 5 and 6 that just miss out from the playoff.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think some other dark horses to think about. You got Auburn, Wisconsin, Iowa.
Iowa's never getting there. They have a hard schedule, and I'm gonna
They
laugh.
they do, but that defense every year somehow that defense just shows up.
Hey, remember when we had a good defense in 2009 and still couldn't get out of our way to lose 4 games? Like we lost
Fair
7 to
enough. Fair
9,
enough.
7 to 9 to Iowa State, but we
What
had a
about
really good
Washington?
defense.
What about Washington? You think they could sneak in?
If they beat Oregon, yeah, absolutely. It comes down to the Oregon game. It comes down to essentially beating Utah in the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they're in. I think they would be because
Think Notre Dame's got a chance?
no, I don't because I think they go 10 and 2, and unless some haywire stuff happens with the the records, I just don't see a 10-2 team getting in, even if it is Notre Dame. Like a 10-2 Notre Dame team, they're going to be talked about. Don't get me wrong, but I
It's
think
not the
there's
toughest
enough.
schedule. It's not
No.
Notre Dame usually has a tougher schedule than they do this year,
Yeah, and
so
I think
it
there's
makes it
enough.
harder.
There's enough in front of them that I don't think they'll make it at 10-2, and I just don't see them winning 11 games.
All right, folks. I think that rounds out our college football our pre-show and
Yes.
preseason predictions and see where we land up. And uh, Tony, as we start heading into Husker season and we start getting week after week, how are we going to do these?
We like to touch on some fun stuff and whatnot at the end of these shows, but we've kind of diverted from that a little bit these last couple of weeks with some offshoots and whatnot. But I think we'll do our main topics, keep that our format, but we're gonna touch on college football week in and week out towards the end of the show because it's something I really enjoy. I love watching the underdog matches every week. I like watching the big game matches every week. It's just I've been looking forward to it all summer, and especially with Nebraska hopefully being good again finally. It's really exciting because we're like 20 days out I think from like first college football game, so it's right around the corner.
Sounds good. I thought about maybe folks at home can tell us what you think, but I thought big games. Maybe we could do some live feedback of call in,
Oh yeah,
give us your questions, and we can
yes,
give some chats and talk about live reactions right
oh
after the
yeah.
game. Because
Oh,
I'm
man.
sure we're gonna have some heartbreakers,
Oh yeah,
and I'm sure
absolutely.
we're
A
gonna
lot of
have
that's going to
some.
be Pac-12 because that's the late game, and after all the family stuff gets over and they all pass out, and be watching those Utah Oregon games. Like, oh, that just kicked off. Let me watch that. Hey, let's get on live. Let's chat this one up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, either way, yeah, me and you are going to be on here doing this anyway, so might as well share it live
Oh yeah.
and tear it up and yeah, get some good thoughts and conversation going. So,
I really miss college football final, even though I hated them all. Lou Holtz and Mark May. Like I liked watching those two guys fight, and now the show's completely like different. It's
oh,
not.
it sucks now, doesn't it?
I can't watch it now. Like, can we just get those guys to come on the podcast and just argue with each other? Because that's what I look forward to the most. Like, okay, I'll watch
Yeah,
the 30-second clip about Nebraska if it even got 30 seconds, but let me watch those two argue. That's what I'm here for.
for sure, man. That was good stuff.
But yeah, and I can't wait. I think tomorrow I got a book in the mail for you, and it's going to be a topic we're going to have to touch on. Like, get through it in a timely manner, I guess. Since yeah, I guess we got college football like right around the corner, but I'm really excited for you to read like the first two chapters. By chapter four, when it really touches into the bowl system, I'm talking about a book called Death to the BCS, and obviously it's a little out of date now, but man, the stuff that it touches on, it's going to be a topic that we are definitely going to talk about, and the corruption and the just horrible status of the major bowl games, the lower tier bowl games, the bowl games that disappear every year. It's just a all you people who like just clamor for the bowl season should read this because it honestly almost makes you hate it.
I'm looking as sad as that sounds. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, I know it's messed up. It is so messed up. I'm excited for you to read it.
Awesome. All right, so outside of college football, man, dude, so much shit has happened. Last couple of weeks have been fucking crazy.
Well, I mean, it's that time of the year. It's hot out. It's muggy. People are chafing, so people are in bad moods. So yeah, shit happens.
Oh, shit happens. There's not a lot of good stuff to talk about. There's not a lot of fun to talk about.
No, nothing's fun anymore. That's why I'm so excited for college football.
Yes.
Bringing it full circle, or bringing it flat Earth.
fuck yeah. Full circle. It is how many weeks away? 5?
No, not even. Like 3-ish.
Is it that close? Holy shit, I'm
Yeah.
pumped, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, like Husker kickoff's like 24 days away. So yeah, like
Have you
3 days before.
started your countdown on Facebook yet?
No, I figure it's just been bad karma the last several years. So maybe if I don't do it this year, it'll be awesome.
Man. As always, appreciate you tuning in. As always, like, share, subscribe. Tony, you want to share any thoughts as we sign off?
No, man, I think we covered it pretty intently. I'm excited for the season as a whole. I can't wait. Honestly, like 2 weeks in, I can't wait to look back on our rankings and just go, wow, what the hell were we thinking? We don't know jack squat. And then at the same time, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what we were right about so I can gloat. That's really it.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Cheers, folks. Appreciate you tuning in.
Indeed.
And like I said before, like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to hear. And look forward to a fantastic football season. Love you. Bye.
Good evening.